Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Tony, and if you follow me you know that we're still at the very early stages of building this amazing huge Jagdpanther G2, this 1:6 scale from kit from Armortek, and it's a beauty and I'm loving every single minute of the build. Now today is part 2 of a 2-part session of wheel building, which my wife keeps saying was really interesting, which is probably one of the worst jokes I've ever heard, but anyway, thank you darling. But anyway, I did have a really good time building these wheels. It took a long time actually, probably about 12 to 14 hours of build time, and it is what it is, you know. It's one of these sort of repetitive tasks when you do a build like this, inevitably you have to deal with, but as I said before, take your time, just put a bit of music on in the background, and before you know it, you just get lost in the moment and you carry on. So we have now got all the parts ready for wheel type A and wheel type B, and in today's session, part 2, I'll be showing you how we mount these onto the different axle hubs, because there's a type A and there's a type B, and at close glance they look identical, but they're not, and I'll talk you through that. But then there's also like the little detailing of the little hubcaps, which you don't put on just yet, but you should get them ready, get them glued in, ready for painting at the same time. So today's we've got to cover quite a lot, and I'm going to try and talk you through the sequence, which the way I think we should do it, because obviously we've got to think about how we paint them, how we get paint on all the parts to stop them from oxidizing and rusting in the future, but at the same time we've got to try and work out how and when to put the tires on. Anyway, I will stop gibbering on as I normally do, and in the time-honoured tradition, I will now reposition the camera and we'll get started. Okay, before we go ahead and start looking at the wheels and the wheel hub and whatever, let's just do these little hubcaps and get them done out of the way. Very simple. Now these are just a detailing thing. Interesting that this time round, these are just decorative, and you just literally glue them into position, and when they're done, this is the wheel hub, the main wheel itself, they literally just glue into position, which I think I found a bit odd, because obviously if you ever need to get the wheels off, you're gonna have to get this off, so you know, normally you would tend to screw these on or bolt these into position, but in this case they simply just ask you to glue it in, obviously once you've got the wheels secured onto the tank and locked into position, you then just simply glue that in. But anyway, I'm going to follow the instructions, and what we're going to do here now is we're just going to take one of these little hubcaps, and we're going to just apply some, and I want to do this so that the glue sets, because I'm going to use, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue either side. Pop one of these into position, and then I'm going to just spin that so I get a decent cover of glue all the way around it, because once these are set, I'm going to use these as part of the painting process, and I'll show you, because obviously when you paint these, what you don't want to do is get any paint onto the bearing itself. So by putting these on just loosely and painting them, not only will I get these painted, it will also protect the bearing itself. So I'll carry on, and then obviously I want the glue to have set. Don't go over don't put too much glue on these, just enough for it to get that sort of capillary action and spread. And I'll just find if I spin those nuts around, that spreads the glue around across the whole surface of the little decorative nut. And that's it. And then once these are all set, that can be part of the painting process. I have given these a bit of a white round already, and these are the little jobs you can do that are quite straightforward, quite easy, and actually make a nice change from building 32 of the wheel rims themselves, which was a task, I must admit. And when you first set out to do them, you think, I'm never going to finish these, But you do, of course you do. And then now we're going to get on to the point where it's actually, you know, quite an enjoyable part of the build. There's a lot of these, so I'm guessing they've got more. There's more for them. They're going to be seen again at some point. Just do the last of these. And that's it. Pop them down there so they go off. Put the lid back on the glue. That's them done. So now we can move on and start talking about the main axle hubs. Okay, things to consider. This assembly here is known as road wheel pair A, and this is known as road wheel pair B. Fundamental difference between the two is the two the hubs themselves. They look similar, but they're absolutely different. So on road wheel B, this is a flat surface here, and there are just punched holes through each side of the axle hub itself. On road wheel A, this is chamfered, and the reason why it's chamfered is it has to sit within this shape here. So Armortek have obviously thought about that. Of course they have thought. And the other fundamental difference is one side are punched holes and the other side is a threaded hole. And the reason for that is that I'll show you this as an example. When you assemble this one, you can actually get both sides. You can use your fingers to hold the nuts and then pass through the little bolts that bolt the hub into position. But when you put this one on, you can't physically get in there to hold them. So they've thought about that, and so this side of the wheel hub is threaded, which allows you just to pass and wind your little bolts into position and to secure that in. But I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to talk about the sequence. So what you need to think of here, two things. One, you need to get paint on this. This is steel, and over time, if you don't prime and paint it, it will oxidize and it will potentially rust. So you need to make sure you get a good coat of paint to protect the steel on here. The only way you're going to do that is to have them, don't assemble them just yet. So we can paint this side, and then put them together. The other thing you need to consider is the tire itself. Obviously the tire has got this retaining rim on the edge here. And if you have them already built, like so, put it on there, it's going to be really difficult to get that tire on, and you could end up damaging the tire trying to force it into. You could probably do it, but I don't think there's any need to do that. Unlike the road wheel B, this can be assembled. There's no reason why I can't just go ahead and assemble that as a complete item, because I can get in there and I can paint all within, within here. I've done that many times. So you can get the paint in there, you can get the paint everywhere, and then eventually you can just slide your tire into position as it should. So on this one, what we're going to do here is I'll get these painted, and then we'll get the tires on, and then we'll put the bolt on this side here. Now the temptation is not to paint the bolt heads and leave them raw, and then just have this so that it's on the inside face of the tank against the hole so you don't see it. But I'll spot paint those. Once I've got all this assembled, I'll put the bolts in and I'll just spot paint them, prime and paint them. So that's the sequence, and that's the thinking behind the sequence. Hopefully that made sense. So now what I'm going to go and do is I'm going to go ahead and build all of these. There's 8 of these to build, so we'll put all 8 hubs into position on road wheel A, and then we'll go on and do B. So I'll do 1 or 2 in real time, then obviously I'll skip ahead and we'll come on to road wheel B. Sorry. Anyway, hope that makes sense. Let's get cracking. I'll just go and get all the fixings I need, and we'll get started. First things first, I'm gonna have to give this a bit of a clean, because you've got a bearing that has to be glued into position on the inside here and here, and you want that to have a decent contact. And also when we come to paint this, you don't want any of that sort of residue left over from the machining exercise. But we don't have to worry about putting the bearing in just yet. You can do that afterwards, because you can actually pass it through this side here, so it's not an issue. You don't need to worry about that just yet, so we'll let that dry off. So obviously the very first thing we're going to need to do here is to bolt this in. So we want the whole side, not the threaded side, so the punched hole side. Just line up those the holes. Then we have our, just put a bit of thread locker on that. Then we have our bolts, which come through from the outside face of the wheel through into the hub, sorry, I don't know if you can see that. Then we just hold that nut into position, sort of try and spin it on. It's always difficult when the camera's on. There we go. Just get that, try and sort of spin that on with your finger, and then we're going to put one in the opposite side. Don't tighten these up just yet. You just want them on there sort of fairly loose, because you want the holes, you don't want the, if you tighten one up, the holes may not line up. So just again, just desperately trying to do this with the camera on. There we go. Just spin that on. So now we've got two of those on. We can hold them into position. I think the holes are all lined up, and then just tighten them up. Now we can carry on. It's such a relief. I'm going to do pop a couple in. No, just temptation is to try and jump ahead, but don't. It's such a relief to just get back onto something that's not that repetitive. I think the next big repetitive job on a tank build like this will be the tracks, and trust me, that takes hours, if not days. But it's all part and parcel of this amazing hobby. Have to be really nice and tight. And I just love this part of the build, because once the wheels are assembled, we'll move on to the sprocket, and then once that's on, we go idler wheel, and before you know it, it really does start to take shape. All I'm doing is just holding the nut in place behind here, and once it grabs it, it grabs it. And obviously make sure you do use your thread locker, for you do not want these coming loose. Really will affect the performance of your finished project. And the last few to go in. And I won't bore you with doing all of these. I think you get the main gist of it. Go around and tighten them up, because they will, as you put more in, it pulls the hubs closer to the main rim. So just go around and do a final tightening up. And I'll show you in a minute, but I think once the little hubcap goes on, I think the detail is so smart. And the last one. Now this is a little bit repetitive, but still, it's like a respite from doing the main wheels themselves. Of course, the last one's always the fiddliest one. There we go. Just hold that on. And that's it. Well, actually what I'll do is I will go around and just double check that I've got them all super tight. That's nice and tight. Tight. Yes. Yes. Lovely. And as I said, if you pop that, obviously bearing's got to go in there yet, but when you pop that in, look at the detail of that. Look how lovely that does look. And when that's all painted up, it's just going to look incredible. So that's the simplicity of that. We won't do the bearings just yet. I'll go on and I'll do all of these now, and then we'll come back and we'll glue the bearings in. So that's all the hubs put onto the road wheel set A on one side. I've already gone ahead and stuck in a couple of the bearings in these. Really straightforward process. Obviously we previously cleaned up the inside of the hole here, hub, sorry. So I'm just going to put some Loctite on the inside of that, using the nozzle to, don't go crazy with glue here, you just want just enough so that when you slide the bearing in, it spreads the glue along the bit of the shaft. So the bearing simply just pops into place like that. Just hold that in there and then just turn that around. Do exactly the same on this side. And this glue does take a little bit longer to set, so just be mindful of that. Slide that in, pop that on the bench out of the way. I was just doing one more of these in real time, then I'll go on and do the rest. And then what we'll do is we'll get onto the road wheel pair B, and I will assemble all of those, because as I said before, we can get the tyres on and we can paint them without any real hassle. And just be very careful you don't put too much glue inside there. You don't want any glue getting on the bearing. Just hold that in position. And I'll carry on now. I'll do the rest of the last 4 of these, and then we'll get on and do the assembly of the road wheel pair B. Okay, so I went ahead and I assembled one of the road wheel pair B, and just a couple of points. One is we're now, instead of the way we did the bearings on the road wheel A, whereas when you put these in, slide them in, and the glue takes a bit of time, because it's on your bench, that's not going to fall out. So whereas on these, if you put them in afterwards and you turn them upside down and put them on your bench, the likelihood is that that bearing might slide out, because this glue, this Loctite glue here, the 638, does take a little bit longer to set. So anyway, that's that. And then also I found that some of these holes here had to be cleaned up, not because they're the wrong size, far from it. It's just that there's a little bit of swarf or whatever. So I've got my drill lined up with a drill bit in it to clean that hole up, those holes up if I need to. Anyway, I've now cleaned up all of the actual hubs themselves, so it's time to start installing the bearings. So as before, just going to, as I said, I've already cleaned up the inside of these, so I'm just going to apply a bit of the, would help if I undone the nozzle, wouldn't it? Just apply a bit of the glue, and then just use the nozzle to spread that around. Careful not to apply too much glue. Get one of the bearings And just slide that in, hold that there. Again, just enough glue, and then use the nozzle to spread that around. Just wipe that bit of excess off that front leading edge. Pop a bearing in. Very satisfying noise. Then that can sit on your bench, and you've got no fear of the bearing sliding out while the glue is setting. So go on now and do another one of these. These are quite handy little plastic containers you get with the kit. I do like to hold on to things like that because, you know, for fixings and things like that, quite handy. And it's nice because they're in the protective sleeve, they're not just all thrown into a bag loosely. And that's that. So I'll go on now and I'll do the rest of these, and then we'll come back and start looking at building one of these wheels. Okay, time to start assembling one of the Pair B road wheels. Now that these are set, we just line them up, and we're going back to the M2.5 by 8mm button fixings, which pass through the little axle hub into the wheel itself. You just hold that in position, wind a nut on. Again, don't tighten these up, just get them in loosely for now. And if you find that you can't pass the fastener through, you can run a drill through it, like I said. If we find one of those, we'll show you. So I'm trying to do this. When you're trying to do this with the camera, or for the camera, it's always a bit tricky. But anyway, we'll get through it. There's 8 of these, obviously, to build. There you go. That's an example of one that's not plain ball. There's the one there. You really don't want to be forcing these little fasteners through, because you will damage the thread. So one there can go through. No. So there's an example. We've now got an issue with the holes, and all I'm going to do now is just line those up. I've got my drill with a very small drill bit just to clean that up. Now we should find the right one. That passes through it, no problem whatsoever. Just going to use my little dinky finger, just apply a bit of thread locker to that. I like to get about 4 or 5 fixings in, and then we can sort of start thinking about tightening them up, as the holes will be aligned by then. There's 4 of those. So now, just holding the back of the button fixing, just use your socket to tighten that up, and it bites very nicely. And then we can go on and put the rest of the fixings in. So that's that. And again, if we have any problems with the hole, we can run the drill through it. That one's gone in very easily. Now we can use the socket as we go tighten them up. And as I said before, this is a little bit repetitive, but nowhere near as repetitive as building the actual wheels. And I think this method is probably the best way to do it. So build all your individual wheels first, and then go on and assemble the actual hubs and the bearings and everything else. That way it does break up the build, because if you were to just build one of them, you know, like a complete wheel every time, I think that would be actually really demoralizingly long and tedious. Whereas this way it kind of breaks up the build of it. Just nice and tight. Just going to go around now and check them all, make sure they're all super tight. Yes. That's it, and then we'll just give that a bit of a wipe over to take any excess thread locker off. And again, I'm just going to demonstrate this, that when that little wheel hub goes in, look at the detail of that. That's lovely, isn't it? But obviously you don't put these on until you've pretty much installed all the wheels, and then it's all running as you want it, and the tracks are on, blah 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 blah. Because if you have to take them off to do any adjustments, it'd be a nightmare. But you can get them painted at this stage and then just set them to one side. So now we can do the other side, exactly the same process. Just line that up. A little bit awkward, it's because you're working a little bit less space. So just pass that through the back of that, hold that in position. Oh, I can see straight away there's an issue with the holes. Let's just see if we can get any of the holes to go. No. So with that, I'm just going to clean these holes up. Nice and gently. I'm not making a hole any bigger, it's the same gauge. The only thing I'm doing is just cleaning up the raw edge of it. And that's it. Now we should find that that goes in with no problems whatsoever. There you go. Pop a nut on there. Just keep it loose as before. Line those holes up. Again, just holding the back of that button fixing. Just wind that nut on. A little bit fiddly, especially with my big old sausage fingers, but perseverance. I'm going to put one more in there, and then we can go around and tighten that up. Look, bearings just popped out. Classic. Glue still not gone off. Anyway, no harm done. Don't know why that glue takes such a long time to to go off. But anyway, once it goes off, it's good stuff. Talk about demonstrating the issue perfectly. I was just keen to move on with these, so I'll probably have to leave the rest of the building of these for a little while, just to allow the to allow the glue to go off completely. So I'm then just going to tighten those all up. Nice and tight. You can really feel it when it pulls the wheel in against the hub. And that's it. Just conscious of that bearing that popped out. The glue's still slightly wet. It's a good 10 minutes now. So I'll just do this one. And once this is done, I'll wait a little bit longer before I build the rest. I won't build the rest of these on camera because you'll all fall asleep with boredom, and I'm not going to do any time lapsing on this because it's just so repetitive. So the next step after this, once I've got all these wheels built, will be to start priming them, and it's time to decide what colour scheme I'm going to be going for, because obviously that will impact what I do with the wheels colour wise. And I'm still debating, right up to the very last minute, I'm still debating in my own mind how to approach this. But I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but there's an amazing channel, if I have mentioned it please forgive me, but it's worth mentioning again, RC Armor. It's one of my favourite channels to watch. They do an amazing job, and they've actually got a Jagdpanther, and they give you a really good tour of the Jagdpanther on the channel. And I absolutely love the camo scheme that's been applied to that, and it also very similar to the camo scheme I did on the Hetzer. So I'm thinking it could be a good fix, and in that case that will decide for me the colour scheme for the wheels. So that's it. I'm not going to put that upside down because the bearing is still setting. So that's it. I'll go on now and I'll do the rest of these wheels off camera, and I'll come back once I've got them all done to talk about painting. So that's it. All the wheels are now built as far as I can go. Just putting the last fastener in and the very last nut. And then it's time to start thinking about getting these primed. And that's it. I'll tell you, know what? I'm so happy that's done. What a relief. I mean, we still have a little bit of work to do. Just pop that one on there. We've still got to connect these ones together, but I'm not going to do that until they've all been painted. So I'm going to start thinking about getting the primer on now. So I'm going to use a red oxide primer because it's been steel, not an etching primer, and probably go 2 or 3 coats of that, and then we're going to leave it overnight. But also one thing I want to try and to think about is, let me just zoom into this. We've got to protect this bearing on both of these. So when we paint these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these little hubcaps and put those over that, then paint them, and then when that side is all painted and I'm happy with the finish on that, I'm going to spin this around and then put it on that side. The only thing I've got to worry about is when it comes to this side and painting this side. Obviously I need to get all the paint on this. If I put that on there, I'm going to get paint into the threaded holes, which could be difficult to wind the fastener through. So what I might end up doing is, I've got these sort of left over from my static modelling days, building models. I've got lots of offcuts of timber discs and these perspex discs in particular. I might just position it over the top of that to protect the bearing and the rest of this hub, because I don't want to get paint down in the threads of these holes here. Might not, you know, may not do too much damage, but at the same time I want it to be a clean fixing. So yeah, these are the little things to think about when you're painting. So just as always, just try to think a couple of steps ahead. So now I'm going to have a look at the weather outside, and if it's dry, and I think it is dry but not too windy, I'll get these primed, and then we'll come back to camera. Welcome to Tony's Workshop World of Wheels. As you can see, there's a lot of wheels, right? But it's all done, all primed now, ready for their top coat. And there's 3 coats of red oxide primer on each one of these wheels. Really pleased with the finish I've managed to achieve. Outside today was perfect painting conditions. And you can see, just going back to here, so this is obviously one of the wheels that we've fully assembled, because we can actually get the tyres on both sides of the wheel. And then using the little hubcap, that's a perfect way to protect the vulnerable little bearing that's inside this. And then when this is all finished and painted and installed onto your tank, you can put your retaining screws on, and then the final piece is just to glue this in. So while you're painting your wheels, you can also paint your hubcaps. So that's gone really, really well. These wheels, on the other hand, are the 2-part assembly, because we need to get the tyres on both sides, as I explained previously. Now what I've decided to do here, or not to do, I'm not actually going to paint with the finished coat on the inside of these, because you're not going to see it. And the reason I've painted the inside with the primer is that the red oxide paint will protect it from, and stop it and prevent it from oxidizing and rusting in the future. So when that's all assembled and the tires are on, everything else, there's really no point on painting the inside of this. It's just, in my view, it's a waste of paint. And we need to concentrate on getting the perfect finish on the outside. And again, just showing you there that this little hubcap has done an amazing job of protecting the bearings. So I thought I'd just share that with you. So anyway, that's enough for this. Let's get back to the camera and we'll talk about the next step. Okay, well, that's part 2 of the wheel assembly completed, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm relieved. It was a long, lengthy process. I mean, obviously it's all squeezed down and condensed down to two very short videos, but it's hours and hours, if not days, of building, assembling, and repetitive tasks and everything else. But when you get them all complete and they're on your bench, it's so rewarding when you look back at it. And you know, at the time you think it's it's a real pain doing them, but actually, you know, when you reflect on it, it's, you know, it's just time spent building something incredible. And the more time you spend building it, the better the quality of the build's going to be. So, you know, please don't rush this if you are building one of these amazing kits. So the next job for us is to get the top coat finished on it, and it will probably be about 3 or 4 coats of the finished coat that goes on it. And again, I haven't fully decided which color I'm going to go for, but by the time I see you in the next video, I would have made my mind up. And I may go ahead and paint them ahead of that video, because, you know, again, look guys, if you like watching me paint, let me know, and I'm happy to film it and release it. But I've done so many painting videos, I think you get the gist of it. But you know, I'm happy to do it again. And then once these are all painted, I was going to go on and do the sprocket, but I think the build sequence works quite well with installing the wheels, because the wheels go on. There is only one position they go into, and really they just sort of lock in. I mean, I'm just going to demonstrate this now, but when we come to install these wheels on the finished job, let me just check. Yes, I'll be putting a little bit of grease on the axle, and then that'll help it slide into position. But when you're doing these wheels, obviously this is the first half of the other type of wheel. You have to make sure that you don't put them all on at the same time, because you kind of got to nurse them into position, encourage them step by step, because they overlap, of course. And then once you've got them all locked into position, then you can put your retaining washers on, and then they're on the tank and they're ready to go. So still a way to go, but I think in the next session we'll be going on to possibly installing the wheels. I may change my mind again, I don't know. But again, I'm looking at the instructions and it looks like we can, and then we go on and do the sprocket and then the idler wheel. And then once we've got that, I'll sort of assemble a long sort of a section of track, say yay big, you know, about 2 foot long, and that's going to help me set the sprocket out to make sure it's the right position in relation to the wheel. So lots more to do on this wheel assembly and installation process, but at least all of the wheels are actually built ready to proceed to the next step. I really hope you've enjoyed these couple of videos. I hope if you are building one of these, it's helped you and informed you of my way of going about doing this. If you enjoyed today's video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, because we have got so much more work to do on this incredible Jagdpanther, this amazing kit from Armortek. So once again, thanks again for all of your amazing support, all those wonderful comments, all those thumbs up. It really means the world to me. And I'll sign off by saying I'm Tony. I love building these kits. Thanks for joining me again, and I look forward to seeing you in my next session. See you soon.